Yeah, so I missed the last 2 minutes on the conversation. Did I miss anything important? Did you guys already fire me?
We've been trying to do that for months, David. I just haven't got the
Yeah,
time. Not
got that
really.
kind of worked out. No, Warren and I wanted to get us all together and go over some things um, that we thought were important. And it's good timing with the WWDC getting kicked off yesterday. And I don't know how many of you watched the Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference keynote, which was a little over 2 hours. Very impressive. I think there was a lot of Apple fans out there that were maybe a little bit nervous um, before that event. Nervous because of Android's momentum and kind of the state of the market as it relates to popularity and volume and all that kind of stuff. So the keynote, I think, put a lot of people at ease. It is very exciting. And then that comes on the heels of about a month ago, Google I/O's, or I should say Google's big conference, developer conference, which is called Google I/O. And of course, both of those are right up the road from us here. And we get really excited about that stuff. And so we have tried, and a lot of you may or may not have noticed, depending on how long you've been with us, we have tried to kind of time our big updates and new exciting releases and all that stuff with Google I/O and with WWDC, because it tends to be after those conferences that big changes happen. And so I want to talk a little bit this morning about some changes in the operating systems, just a little bit. We're not going to go into details or anything, and then how that relates to our Buzztouch projects. We're calling that a quarterly update, but we could probably call this anything we want. I'm a little bit pressed for time this morning, and so we'll take some questions if we can, although I can't see the questions in the chat window, Warren. I'm not sure if that's, oh yeah, here's the window. So we'll see if there's anybody who posts in there. And
Yeah,
so I'll just kind of ramble on,
no,
unless I
no
see somebody.
questions so far,
Yeah, perfect.
and
And so,
I'll give you the five to go at 10:25. Okay.
yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect, which will be 8:25 here.
Right.
I woke up early. I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning working on Android fragments, which is one thing that we want to talk about. And so let's go right into that and talk about Google I/O and kind of the core takeaway for us in the Buzztouch world as it relates to Google I/O. The biggest thing that you're going to see in Buzztouch in our future, and then when I talk about future, I'm talking pretty short-term stuff. We've been working on a lot of these things for a long time. The biggest thing you're going to see is a little bit more emphasis on the Android platform in terms of what devices. It's not just what devices are supported, but what devices your projects look nice on and work nice on. And let me unpack that a little bit. One of the problems with Android, we call it a problem, but you can call it whatever you want, but one of the realities with Android is this idea of fragmentation. And there's lots and lots of different versions of Android, and there's lots and lots of different manufacturers that build phones for Android. And for those and other reasons, it's very, very challenging to make an app that is, frankly, professional grade quality, looks good, doesn't crash, all that kind of stuff. And so that's the case with any of the platforms of Android for any developer. It's a little bit more challenging, and I think that most people in the mobile development kind of ecosystem would agree to that. And so we've struggled with this for quite a long time, actually from the very beginning, years now. How do we move forward with Android and support our customers and audience and members and friends and colleagues and all of that? And so we're taking a little bit of a turn on the approach that we've been taking, in that we're going to start focusing not necessarily on the most number of devices, although it will slowly turn into the most number of devices, but we're going to start focusing on the newest devices. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Google's doing a better job at distributing updates to everybody's phones, and focusing on the more modern versions of Android, 3.0, 4.0, 4.1, 4.2, things like that, allows us quite a bit more flexibility as developers to make modern, fresh, nice-looking Android software. And so you're going to see a focus on our end on that idea. We're going to think less about the what-if problems. What if somebody's running this on a 3-inch screen? We're going to think less about some of these, I don't want to say underdeveloped areas, but in essence, there's a trend throughout the world that a lot of these underdeveloped areas are, taking off with Androids, but in a lot of these places, they're not even running what I would consider to be a smartphone. They're running kind of an elementary phone, right? Not a kindergarten school, preschool phone, but not a smartphone, right? They're in the middle somewhere. And so it's very, very hard for developers like you and like me and everybody here at Buzztouch and everybody in our community to make smartphone quality software when it's targeted for phones that aren't that smart, frankly. So we're going to focus on helping you get your project to work really, really well, perfectly on the newer, modern, in essence, larger devices. Think Samsung Galaxy 4, Galaxy 3, Note, Nexus 7, tablets, all that kind of stuff. And so the Android front for us and you looks really exciting in that regard. Though the Apple conference, which all these things are always related, but the Apple conference and the developments yesterday with the conversation on the stage with Tim Cook and his colleagues, focused. If you haven't seen it, it's focused a lot on design. There's some feature announcements in iOS 7, and of course OS 10 is now done with the cat names, and they're going to be calling the new version of OS 10 Mavericks or Maverick, which is really cool. And again, right up the road from us, there's a place called Half Moon Bay, California, which is on the coast, that is known for giant waves. And literally some of the biggest waves in the world are at the Maverick Surf Contest each year. And they're ridiculously high, 30, 40, 50, 60-foot, just breathtaking waves. Very powerful, very almost surreal. And so they've gone with that idea that, hey, there's places in California, which is where Apple's designed and of course, headquartered. And they're going to go with California names, place names that are meaningful instead of big cats. I thought they might go to big dogs, but they changed, they didn't give us any warning. They went with places. But anyway, and so for Apple, the focus yesterday was on design, not so much features, although there are a lot of new features in iOS 7, soon to be coming. I'm sure a lot of you have already put it on your phones. It's pretty cool. And so we're going to do the same thing, right? We time this stuff with these big conferences for this exact reason. We don't want to get too far ahead of everyone with our ideas, because we help lots of people make lots of apps, and we want to help those people make those apps as professional and mainstream as possible. So that, remember, one of the concepts of you using Buzztouch is when we make a big improvement to our project, the theory is you can download your project from your control panel, maybe an app that you made 8 months ago or a year ago or 2 years ago, recompile it and submit it to the App Store. And now you have an app that's supported on the latest operating system, and oftentimes, like in this case, might even look fundamentally different. Not dramatically different, but fundamentally different in terms of the style and the feel. Think of simple things like the navigation bar. iOS 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 6 it's been pretty standard, a black or a colored navigation bar, not a whole lot of movement on the screen, very standard stuff, which has been great. Well, now that's all now changed. It's now, some would say, lighter or simpler or more elegant, maybe, completely different font. And so when you recompile your project, after we push out our next big update, you'll see a lot of that stuff in your plugins and a lot of that stuff in your app auto-magically without having to do anything. So we're pretty excited about that. So we'll move that right into plugins. Going along that big news or quarterly update concept, you may have saw a forum post I threw up about 3 weeks ago about where we're headed and what we're trying to do with all these plugins, and as specifically the plugin market. Some of the problems that we're having with the plugin market have been there from the very beginning and remain unsolved. And they relate to how long it takes to make a plugin, how difficult it is to make a plugin, how difficult it is to get that plugin in the market, and then, of course, distributed to app owners who are making apps. So if you're interested in making plugins, or if you're using the plugin market and buying plugins, it's really, really important to us that we speed that process up, increase the quality, increase the volume and the variety, and increase the speed in which that we can make those plugins. And so Susan and I have literally been battling with this for months and months and months and months. And I won't bore you with a lot of the reasons why it's so difficult, but most of them revolve around security and quality. We can't let people put plugins in the market that could potentially damage our back end, or certainly slow it down. And that could also be said for your self-hosted control panels. If you have a self-hosted control panel, there's a certain amount of trust you put in us to not distribute to you a plugin that's going to damage your system. And so there's a lot of that going on. Not damaging, but a lot of time we spend on inspecting each of these plugins. It isn't that people would intentionally at this point do harm to us or do harm to your database or your back end, but the fact of the matter is people make mistakes sometimes, and we don't have in their programming, and we don't have very many automated systems in place to help us with that. So it's a very manual process, and it takes a bunch of time. So rather than keep fighting that idea, taking a bunch of time to review these plugins manually, we've already begun working on a development environment, a sandbox, so that plugin developers can upload plugins to a control panel on our back end and begin to experiment with them in order to speed up along this kind of self-serve thing. And so what you're going to end up seeing as a developer making plugins is a place to kind of explore and play without risk and without inspection. We don't have to inspect anything this way. And then what you'll see as a plugin buyer, somebody in the market looking through these plugins, is hopefully you'll see quite a few more come to the market, because the developers are going to be empowered to do that self-serve. And so that takes us to the next question. Well, if it's self-serve, how are we going to patrol or manage that quality element? If we get past the security and we automate that, and then we move towards quality, if no one on our end is looking at the quality of these, how are we going to do that? And so we have a pretty exciting announcement. I think this is going to be kind of neat in terms of what our solution is. And so it's a balance between control, closing everything down and trying to do it ourselves, and leveraging the enthusiasm and the skill of our developers to make their own things in a fast way. And so what we're going to do is, along with that sandbox, developers will be able to move their plugin from the sandbox to the live plugin market, as long as a couple of rules are followed. And some of these rules are really exciting, and some of these are scary as heck, and I'll just give you a couple of them. The first rule is we're not going to let plugin developers move plugins from the plugin sandbox over to our plugin market unless they've been a member of our community for a certain amount of time. We're not supposed to be, we're not ready to announce how much time that is, but the goal is we don't want somebody becoming a member yesterday and then filling our market full of, in essence, junk or spam or things that are clearly just designed to sell high volume and not necessarily help anybody make apps. So that's the first big part of this, is plugin developers won't be able to add anything to the market unless they've been a member for a certain amount of time. The second thing is plugin developers, and this is kind of a big bombshell, but try to follow this through. Plugin developers will not be able to add something to the market if it's anything other than free. They have to add it to the market for free, no cost, until they get a certain number of reviews. So it might go like something like this. You make an amazing race car game plugin, you put it in the sandbox, you test it, everybody's happy, it works, you move it over to, you've been with Buzztouch for a little while, you move it over to the plugin market, and you give it a price, let's say $5. When it first arrives in the market, it will be free, period. And based on a certain number of reviews, a low number of reviews, we're still not sure what that number will be, but somewhere probably 3 or 4 or 5 reviews. After a certain number of reviews, you will then be able to adjust the price and set a price, and it will become for sale. The logic for that is we want to incent, a couple of reasons for this. We want to incent people who are enthusiastic about the plugin market to download that plugin really fast and not have to pay for it, and in essence take a little bit of risk, because there's no reviews to review or to understand. That might mean that it doesn't work well, that might mean there's something wrong with it, but if you didn't pay for it, our concept is no big deal. If a few people download it for free, of course they're going to be encouraged to review it. And after a certain number of reviews are turned in and submitted, then the price will turn on. And so there's a lot of details around the edges of that topic, but in essence, we're confident that that'll be a good balance between us doing everything and the developers wanting to be in the market. It'll just kind of promote the ecosystem a little bit better. We don't think that's a negative for plugin developers. If you think, you know, $12 or $13, $20 worth of income or revenue is a problem, then maybe our market's not the right place to distribute your work. We're pretty confident with that idea. So we're excited about plugins. The last topic about plugins, because I am going to run out of time here, and then I'll recap a little bit. The last topic about plugins is, and this is another big deal, and only developers will understand this, the index.php page, the script or the web page that communicates with the database in the back end, that's the page you see in the control panel when an app owner is working on a plugin and setting the advanced properties of a plugin. That script is going to go away. Your plugin package will not have a PHP file in it anymore. It'll be just HTML. And so we've got some interesting ways to allow you to communicate with the database using JavaScript and HTML, which is much easier for you and much more secure for us, and that'll allow us to do all of these kinds of things. And so instead of, if you've looked at a plugin index page, index.php page, you're used to all kinds of code at the top of the page. That'll all be gone. And in essence, you'll be making JavaScript calls to do things with your plugin. For example, add child item, remove child item, get child items, those kinds of things will all be JavaScript. And so that's not intimidating, even though I think a lot of you might be intimidated by that change. It's not intimidating, and you'll see how much easier it'll become. Because a lot less code is just easier to understand. So we're excited about that. So the last topic before the recap is this team that I've been working with, this leadership team. I set out last year to recruit some help, and formal help, official help, partners, people in the trenches with me that are different than customers, friends, colleagues on the site that we're all so close with. We put a team together, and we started on this new, kind of down this new path on January 1st, which is in essence 5 months ago. 5 months has passed. It feels like, some days it feels like a few weeks, and some days it feels longer than that, but we've done a lot of stuff in the last 5 months as a team, and I can't tell you how excited I am to get to work with these people. I just wanted to make sure that you guys know that I'm absolutely confident that we teamed up with the right folks, and I see them in the forums, and I see them helping our members, and I see them every day working super hard to make this easier and better for all of us, and I'm just real thrilled about that. And so you might send a thank you message to those people on our About Us page, because I can tell you they're working for peanuts, and they are working hard, and it's pretty amazing how much we've been able to get done as a group instead of just one person. And so I wish I could hang out longer on the meeting this morning. I think we do have about 5 minutes for questions. But basically, we talked a little bit about Google I/Os, Android stuff, WWDC, plugins, our leadership team. I could talk and talk and talk, and I'm happy to have, you know, an update part 2 if we think this will go longer. That's completely okay. Warren's kind of back on the horse in terms of these webinars. He got a little derailed with some other things that he was working on, so we can look forward to a little bit of kind of action in the morning. I say morning, it's 8 o'clock. In terms of these webinars too, and so that's kind of exciting. But do you have any comments, Warren, before I jump out of here? I don't see any questions in here.
Yeah, I don't have any questions listed. Joe Sprott sent a couple of messages, and he's very supportive of what's happening with the plugin market.
A lot of those decisions that we came to, he actually, in a very literal way, helped us come to some of those conclusions. In St. Louis at BuzzCon, Joe is very outspoken and well-spoken about some of the ways that we can get around this, and he sent me a couple of emails with some ideas, and people think that's sometimes unnoticed, but that, you know, you can't point to one person and say literally this is this guy's idea, but you can certainly point to things like Joe talked about, and things like you and I talked about, and things like a lot of the people in St. Louis talked about before we decide on this stuff.
Well, that event in St. Louis, I think, really gave us a different insight into the developer group and the people that participate in Buzztouch. They were able to freely express their perspectives of what was going on. So we got a lot out of that for the people that were there. They got a lot out of it, but we got more out of it than they did, I think.
Absolutely.
Andy Kitts, you missed everything basically because we're about ready to shut down. Andy just jumped on and wanted to know what he missed. So I will throw this out here. I just noticed online we're about to hit a milestone, David. I don't know if you've looked at the list of the number of users or not, but we're very close to 200,000 users.
Yeah, that might be in the next few days or week or so. You're absolutely right. It's pretty exciting.
It's a pretty amazing number, and considering how much of this was done without any formal structure,
right,
until the 1st of January. But there's always been people participating and helping out. So.
Yep. Hey, so I'm going to sign off, guys. I got to get out of here. I've got a meeting in 3 minutes, and I look forward to the next hangout. We will catch you guys soon.
We're going to try to do this at least once a week, and it'll be about this same time every day. So
awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.